Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to our Lake Superior Living Labs Network mini meetup. Really excited to have all of you here. For those of you who just joined, Brian French was supposed to share with us today, but it turns out he's sick, and so he won't be presenting, unfortunately. But we have Sue with us, and so we'll just make today about EcoSuperior and other connections to that, which will be great. I have two announcements, which I thought I would just share right now, or reminders for folks, because every name I'm seeing is part of the network. So we are sending a quick reminder to do your Living Labs Network survey, if you could, by Friday. That will be great for our work together and also for my thesis. So just shameless plug there. So if you need a reminder of how to get to that link in your email, or I can send you a direct link, let me know. And happy to send that to you, or any questions that you have about that. And then also a reminder that on Friday of this week at noon Central Standard Time and 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have another sort of mini meetup, and Erica Vi will be sharing about the Houghton Hub, which is new to our network. So that's sort of an introduction to that hub, which will be great on Friday. So without any further ado, Sue, I'll just let you take it away. And Sue's the Executive Director of EcoSuperior, and we'll let you share whatever you had prepared.
Excellent. Okay, just give me 1 second as I queue up my screen. And I did put in the chat, it was Equilibrium 3, just so you know.
Yeah, we work with them closely on a number of things.
Oh, super. Well, it was Jody Slick that was being recommended to invited and to connect. So let's see if this all works. Are people seeing my screen by any chance?
Perfect. We've got the slide up.
Good. Okay, great. Oh, good morning, everybody. Pleasure to join you, and thanks so much for inviting EcoSuperior to share a little bit more about what we're up to. So that's the intention of today. It's simply to share a little bit, little hint as to who we are and what we're up to. So here is the plan for today. I'm going to do a very brief introduction to place with a land acknowledgement. I'm going to then introduce EcoSuperior's team and myself and roles at EcoSuperior. Very brief history of EcoSuperior. And then a little bit about now and becoming, you know, in terms of our team, present and ongoing, our hopes and dreams, and then leave time for questions and comments at the end. So I'll begin with place. So where is EcoSuperior on this beautiful planet, third from the sun? So here's a fun perspective. I wanted to kind of give a different perspective of the map, since part of this group is obviously in and around Lake Superior. I just thought I'd give this different perspective I got from working up in the Arctic. This map. And so where EcoSuperior is located, where I am currently right now, is in what we now call Thunder Bay, which is located approximately right where that star is on the north shore of Lake Superior in the boreal forest. We do have a small building on Red River located right in the city of Thunder Bay. And just a couple minutes walk, there is a spectacular view of at a height of land we call Hillcrest Park, looking out to what we're all gathered here today connected with is the most spectacular and largest freshwater lake in the world, Lake Superior. And looking right out from that perspective, looks out at the highest cliffs in Ontario, which is something that we refer to here in Thunder Bay in English as the sleeping giant. There's the sun coming up twice a year. The sun comes up right out of the giant from this perspective, and it's just magnificent. So as we acknowledge where we are and our place and being on this beautiful lake and in the confluence of two giant forests, mainly the boreal forest. I want to list and read out for you the land acknowledgement that we now use at EcoSuperior. EcoSuperior respectfully acknowledges that the land in which we live and work is the traditional lands of the Fort William First Nation, signatory to the Robinson Spirit Treaty of 1850. We further acknowledge that today, the city of Thunder Bay and region is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, otherwise known as North America. In the spirit of reconciliation, we are committed to building healthy relations with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people based on the principles of mutual trust, respect, and reciprocity. Recognizing and honoring the past stewards and original land keepers, we aim to work together in a collective, collaborative society where all can connect meaningfully with the rich history of the lands and waters we call home. So that's a little bit about where we're located and the land in which we call home, both work and play, we'll call it. I'm just going to briefly introduce the team at EcoSuperior in which I have the honor to work with. So Ashley Preem, who's up on the screen on the far left, she's been with the organization the longest. She is our program director. We have Erin Moyer, program coordinator, but she's now our education director. We have Kelsey Agnew, who's shifting currently right now out of a role called support guru into a program coordinator focusing on active transportation. We have Marcel Bananish Sr., who is been joining our team just in the beginning of 2021. He is originally from this region as an Anishinaabe, and he's a program coordinator who focuses on climate and also bringing an Anishinaabe and Indigenous perspective to all of our programming, especially climate action and education and awareness. We also have Melissa Davidson, program coordinator, who mainly focuses on waste and other biology-related research. Julia, who focuses a lot as a program coordinator in water-related programming. We have Brian Mpoza, recently joined our team in 2021 as our finance manager, Shayla in communications as our communications coordinator, and Karen Kirk, who is the program coordinator for the Thunder Bay and Area Food Strategy, which is also an umbrella under EcoSuperior's organization. So myself, my name is Sue Hamel. For those of you who don't already know me, I'm just been the executive director here at EcoSuperior since November of 2019. I replaced the executive director named Ellen Mortfield, who had actually been the ED since its inception. So she was almost 25 years, just 24 years and some, as the executive director for EcoSuperior. So that was pretty huge shoes to fill, and a pretty massive transition that I feel like the organization is still experiencing in this current shift with me stepping in. But where I come from 3 decades of environmental education, including the University of Connie Russell. She's a part of this group right now. I still refer to that. Anyways, environmental education, both as a student and even in graduate, at university and graduates programs as well, but also as an educator myself. And I also have some experience in research in that field. I've been a wilderness guide for years and worked also in various areas within conservation, including working for parks and protected areas. And that's across North America, from BC all the way to Quebec, from the high Arctic all the way down to Utah. And I've also worked and lived in Africa for 3.5 years working in this field. So that's kind of what I bring to the role. But I'm super passionate about this place that I have the privilege to call home, this community, my family. I'm a mother of 2. And also, the mission of EcoSuperior, which, let's be honest, I know I'm a little biased because it's the organization I work for, but could there be a more important mission? So the mission of our environmental not-for-profit is building a healthy future for people and the planet. is that not what all humans, I think, deep down are longing for? Probably the rest of life on Earth as well. So our not-for-profit was established and incorporated in 1994, 1995. It's got a couple of dates there. It's what we do is we offer meaningful environmental programs and services, mainly across this region, but sometimes it even extends beyond the region of Northwestern Ontario. We are governed by a volunteer board of directors, of which we have 11 currently from a diversity of backgrounds. We also employ 11 full-time staff. So, and what we offer, when I say meaningful programs and services, it's a diversity, which I'll get to in just a second, but just so that everybody understands how we exist and how we have maintained being in existence. It's pretty much full-heartedly from a group of dedicated, purpose-driven staff at EcoSuperior that work diligently on top of doing all the work. They're also constantly searching for other ways to get that financial support. And that support comes from funders, partners, and community, for which we are either networking with, we are applying actively, constantly applying for proposals and funding for, and working with partners who either reach out to us or us with them. And so the money, the financial support, mainly comes from the grants that are successful from all of that, from all levels of government. And I just want to point out, especially for all those who are here in Thunder Bay, but also to those folks who are not, in case you can get this idea to help strengthen what you do. We are so grateful at EcoSuperior. I'd say approximately 40% of all of our financial support comes from the city of Thunder Bay, and very few environmental not-for-profits across this continent can claim that. So I just want to give a big shout out to our city of Thunder Bay, who supports EcoSuperior and so much of the work that we do. Our other 60% comes from, I'm roughly saying that, come from other agencies and organizations, our fee-for-service projects and services, and our small regional operation that we also have, like we have an online store. We're also notably a member of GCC, which is Green Communities Canada, which is essentially an environmental not-for-profit in Canada that has member organizations like EcoSuperior that are environmental not-for-profits from across the country, coast to coast. And it's been a growing organization. It's fabulous for us for networking and then also collaborating on seeking funding together that benefit multiple environmental not-for-profits, and also for sharing ideas and best practices. So what are we doing? I'm just going to briefly get into that here, and I just want to leave mostly time for us all to ask questions or perhaps provide comments, because there are over probably 22 different active contracts and programs, and each with sometimes dozens of deliverables. So I'm not going to get into the weeds of everything that we do, but I'm going to give you a brief overview of what we're up to, because there is a lot going on with that small but mighty team that our EcoSuperior full-time staff. So essentially, here are the program areas. Water, in the area of water, is there a more important things we're working for as an environmental organization? I mean, water is life, period. I mean, it's the only reason why there's life on this planet. Well, maybe not the only one, but it's the main reason. So let's be honest, this is an important and has been since inception. EcoSuperior, I didn't mention our brief history, but in the 25 years, I just want everyone to realize we have not had a stable 25 years, just because, as everyone here can probably already put two together, there has been consistent political will from the powers that be, including community for that matter, over the last 25 years towards the living landscape and waterscape. So we are so grateful to be in existence. But I just want to give one quick side note. There have been many a time in the last 25 years where many staff, if not almost all of the staff, had to be laid off because of lack of funding. So it has not been a consistent growth. It's been sort of a rocky road over the years, but the last 3 years, thank heavens, have been far more stable and in a growth pattern, which I hold hope stays strong to keep our community moving in the right direction and supporting where we can. So how do we support? In water, we work with the city of Thunder Bay. We sell these, they're actually repurposed giant olive jugs that come over from Greece. After those olives go to the restaurants, these olive jugs then get turned into water barrels, which we then sell to the community at a discounted price. And that way community can actually collect water off of their roof, so rainwater, to be able to water their gardens. This has been a huge service we've been providing to the community and region for years. We just got 176 new ones delivered on Earth Day just a couple of days ago, and they're back up and flying off the shelf on our online store. We also have helped, this is related to both water and stormwater management. We've supported the installation of over 120, I think we're up to now, at least 110 anyways, rain gardens across the city of Thunder Bay, both residents and even a few institutions like Lakehead University. We're working on some more this summer. And then we do a lot of shoreline cleanups, and we do storm drain work. The list goes on of what we do around water, especially litter prevention and also litter cleanups, which relates to the next one, which is waste. That's probably the oldest program that EcoSuperior has. Its 25th anniversary will be next summer, which is Spring Up to Clean Up. It's a giant citywide cleanup program that we do thanks to funding from the city of Thunder Bay and the support of this community. So this is unbelievable. We just launched it about, was it 10 days ago now at the most? And to give you a perspective, this has been growing over the years. 2019 was our largest year we had for Spring Up to Cleanup. I think 10,000 community members in Thunder Bay were part of Spring Up to Cleanup. What is amazing is if we compare to 2019, which was our last pre-COVID, launch of it, we just launched and we've now already seen double the number of registrants in the same amount of time, like in terms of 10 days. We're not done yet, but we're seeing giant growth in that area. And yet again, our city of Thunder Bay stepping up to the plate to collect cigarette butts, garbage, waste, litter, recycling from across our city, preventing it from going into our waterways and into our soils and into Lake Superior. So we also have the Thunder Bay and Area Food Strategy, which has been housed under EcoSuperior for since 2013. There is currently one program coordinator by the name of Karen Kirk that I introduced earlier, and she is their main and one full-time staff that does an enormous amount of work to get the dreams and desires from an executive committee that sort of helped to create this work plan, and she gets funding from various sources, including City of Thunder Bay, towards food security, food sovereignty, and supporting all things local food in this region. And just some newly signed proposals in the last few days, that program is taking off, and I'm super thrilled to see the strengthening of that. Here's some other program areas EcoSuperior focuses on: active transportation, working with the City of Thunder Bay and community partners and schools to, create more commuters and support commuters by teaching safe cycling, helping infrastructure to be built around schools, and even education programs for parents and teachers and school administration to support active transportation, working with the health unit. The list goes on around that, even working with seniors and adults and all groups to be able to just create more active transportation, both walking and wheeling, so not just bicycles. We have a lot of work, and that is only going to continue in the area of climate action and awareness. And as you heard earlier, we've recently hired Marcel Bonanish Sr., who's bringing a very important and I'd say long overdue perspective to the climate conversations and all things at environmental, at EcoSuperior, around bringing an Indigenous perspective to creating a healthy future and a climate that is healthy. Now, the last two I want to mention is education. First off, I would say that all of our programs involve education and outreach. That's a huge piece of how EcoSuperior does what we do. We're not as much a sort of an activist group in the sense that I feel like everything we do is activism, but we don't necessarily focus on like some other environmental organizations that really pressure government and decision makers around changing policy. What we tend to focus on as an environmental organization, although we support those actions, what we tend to focus on is education and outreach, getting into schools, working with teachers, working with community members, providing services and education and information to help empower our community to work together towards creating solutions. And I think EcoSuperior has been doing a pretty good job of that over the years and is only getting stronger in that area. And if you want to know more, I'd be happy to share some of those things with you, but I'll just give you, 2 examples. Even right now, we're working on a giant project with Ministry of Education, where we're actually creating curriculum that's going to go into all of the schools across the province, educating about the Lake Superior Basin. Every Great Lake is getting an educational, it's kind of like a PowerPoint presentation with embedded videos throughout. And EcoSuperior is in charge of the one for Lake Superior, which I'm really proud of. Erin Moyer's been in charge of that project. She's been networking with lots of other folks in the community, and that is really exciting. It's going to go virtually right into all the classrooms. I can't remember the age group right now, across our whole public school system in Ontario. Lastly, and I'll give one other example of a workshop we would do around education is we would give beeswax wrap workshops to try to, switch from all this single-use plastic towards plastic alternatives. That would be an example that we offer a fee for service for that. They always it's amazing. We almost sell out, and we have sold out in the past, but with virtually, we've even, since we've gone virtual, we've been even selling out in those workshops as well. So it's been awesome to see the enthusiasm in the community. Last but not least, this is a new area that EcoSuperior has been launching since I arrived. We're calling it right now Land Connections, but essentially this is a new area that is got a few different sort of directions and hopes and dreams associated with it. It's, I would say it's examples of deep nature connection work, really. It's kind of like, why are we doing all these other pieces in some ways? And it's, whether it's climate, active transportation, plastic reduction, waste reduction, all these things, this is giving this underlying piece as well that I see and I'm very passionate about because I come from the field of environmental education is, a big thing that I'm seeing right now across, well, in my own lived experience in this day and age, with the way I've with what I've been exposed to myself in paradigms, ways of seeing the world, I feel like a huge piece that, and correct me if I'm wrong, and we can open this up to conversation here in a moment, is I deeply feel that that there needs to be, and I'm using the words of Sharon Blackie, there needs to be a deep revolution of belonging, belonging to our places and to each other. And for this, I'm really thrilled to, around this sense of belonging to place and to each other, to our communities. EcoSuperior has a few different things that we've been launching and are planning to launch in this regard. One of which is around forest therapy. We have 3 staff right now who have gotten certified with the Global Institute for Forest Therapy, myself included. I'm also now certified as a forest therapy guide instructor with the Global Institute for Forest Therapy. And so we offer what EcoSuperior is calling rewilding for wellness forest therapy walks. We also are working on proposals, of which we've been successful with one so far, and fingers crossed we're seeking more, around designating healing trails in the area. Again, working in collaboration with Indigenous communities, Crime Prevention Thunder Bay, Canadian Mental Health Association, and City of Thunder Bay in this regard, and LRCA. So more on that if you're interested in hearing about that. And lastly, with hiring of Marcel Bananish Sr., he comes from decades of land connection work, working with Indigenous youth and adults. And I really am thrilled to be seeking. In fact, we just got TD, Friends of the Environment Fund, successful proposal we just last week that will be helping him to work with Indigenous youth, for example, at Hammersholt High School, to do a ton of work in this regard around cultural, traditional skills, traditional laws, working with making things like bear grease soap, hide tanning, and other really important traditional skills with, of course, cultural pieces woven in. So last but not least, there's a ton of other stuff we do. Don't have time to get into all of it. Should you want to know more, feel free to reach out to me either at the end of this or privately in an email or so on. But we've also been involved with some research and hosting youth from Ocean Bridge Direct Action and Canadian Wildlife Federation Conservation Corps. This summer, we'll have 2 youth once again that will be out at Porphyry Island conducting data collection for climate and weather, thanks to help with a community partner and volunteer, Graham Saunders. That'll be once again located out at Porphyry Island this summer. We also got funding to install a rain garden demonstration out there for education, for visitor experience enhancements out there. Whoops. And we partner with Clean, Green and Beautiful, who's been supporting a lot of our cigarette butt management around the city of Thunder Bay, protecting our waterways from having we've stopped, I think it's over 2.5 million cigarette butts that we've actually counted and recycled and made sure they're not in the waterways. We also partner in a diversity of ways with LU, different departments and reasons. Other research we've been assisting with Environment Canada and Radon, for example, with Health Canada. We try to do a lot of role modeling with things. In fact, our organization right now is test piloting a 4-day work week, and we have researchers from the Department of Psychology at LU that are reporting and assessing it on our journey, and we're expanding. We hope to expand some more Indigenous youth programming with Marcel. He's already building that with Fort William First Nation and Matawa and others. And lastly, I am just going to end with this quote. That's what I'm going to do. I love this. If you haven't heard it already, I shall share it with you, because I feel like layered on top of all the environmental pieces that EcoSuperior already is working on around biodiversity and climate and water and waste and all the topics we mentioned to you earlier, we also have this pandemic. And this is a crisis that has affected everything in so many ways and exposed a lot of the injustices that were normalized. And this is why I love this quotation by Sonia Renee Taylor, because here's what she shared, which I love reading this one to folks if you haven't already seen it. She says, "We will not go back to normal. Normal never was." Everybody, and the reason why I love this too is I'll hear a lot of people like, "Oh, I can't wait for things to get back to normal." I feel like I don't want things to go back to normal, and I would imagine most people on this call don't either. Anyways, she says, "We will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-corona existence was never normal, other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. We should not long to return, my friends. We are being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature." Well, thank you. That's my presentation for today, and I am open to any questions or comments or dialogue that may come from this. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. That was great. Even I've gotten to hear, we'll do a little clappy hand. Yeah, I've learned a little bit, but I still learned a lot about your programs through this. This is really helpful. I see we can open it up for discussion, but I would just draw us to the chat quick, and then I can hand it over. People can unmute. Mindy was wondering about the funding through the City of Thunder Bay, and if And I know you had mentioned you were funded partially by that. And is it to meet regulatory obligations around things like stormwater regulations or others? So we can start there and then go from that.
Well, big question, because there's a lot of different line items from a lot of different budgets and programs. So my quick answer, without getting into the weeds, is some, yes. And others, it's, you know, of course, like, I mean, how do I answer that in a simple answer? Yes, and how about that? Yes, and yes, and. And so there's a lot of co-creation that happens. And of course, you know, the city has things that mandate from top down to them, whether it be, you know, from city council or perhaps even above from provincially or federally. And sometimes EcoSuperior can help support that. And other times it's in addition to, or in alignment with, or, you know, is that a good enough way to answer? How about that? I just don't want to get into the weeds because there's lots of examples and, you know, that are on both sides, but I hope that helps capture it. So at times, yes.
Great, thanks. Randy also put in the chat, Randy, I can read it unless you wanted to expand. Has your role and set of activities changed since Thunder Bay declared a climate emergency?
Well, good question. Well, first off, I just want to give a big shout out to Ainsley Class, and I don't know if she's even in on this right now, but she used to work for EcoSuperior, and she played a huge role with her committee, for those who are also on that committee, to actually bring that to City Council to have it declared. So I'm super proud of her and the team that brought that. Yes, though it's not as quick of a turnaround as I would have liked in terms of where we're at with that, but I do foresee that changing over the next year and two, as funding and staff capacity and everyone sort of comes together and continues to wrap their head around climate. Yeah. Check out our, by the way, we did just launch a new page on our website last week, Act on Climate. So it's ecosuperior.org/actonclimate. That just got launched on Earth Day, and it's got a ton of information around that. And then we hope to continue to work in that regard. But some we've already been starting to act thanks to that declaration. But it's all hands on deck. Let's just be honest. It's all hands on deck with that declaration, as it should be. Everybody, every institution, and every level of government, and everyone at this table. This is one thing that's bringing all of humanity together, and those of us with more privilege have the more responsibility to do. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Any other any questions?
Yeah, Charles has his hand raised. So Charles, go ahead if you want. Although Randy, I see you're unmuted too. And thanks, you shared an article in the chat with us all.
Yes, I did.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna make sure I'm just gonna have that open on a separate page that I'll read after this is over. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Charles, go ahead.
Great. Before I say anything, I just want to say, Gavin, your baby looks so beautiful. I haven't seen her in a while, so thanks for putting her on the screen. Sue, thanks so much for your presentation. I actually, it's funny, as much as I've been working directly and indirectly with EcoSuperior now for a few years, I feel like that's the first time I've got the full picture. So it was really great. Thanks. I have two questions. One is, one is maybe just more informational, and the second one is maybe a bit more controversial. So I don't know if we have, we'll see if we have time for that. And anyways, maybe more of a discussion. But the first one is, Part of, I think, what the Lake Superior Living Labs Network is really about is to try to think about a lot of these issues on a watershed scale. And I know that you're doing that. And a lot of what you talk about was very much about EcoSuperior and the program. So I'm just wondering if you could say maybe a little bit more about, and I think especially for folks that are in Duluth and, and Houghton, where, because this is a question I wrestle with a lot, is like, how do we think about doing this kind of place-based work that is obviously so important? You talked about building community and like really about the places we are, and that's where you started, but also kind of thinking about things at a network level or at a scaled level where, obviously these issues are not just about Thunder Bay. They, really these things are so much bigger. So I'm just wondering, maybe just your thoughts on some of the work you're doing and how it kind of maybe connects to this watershed scale thinking that we're kind of playing with in this network.
Ooh, big and juicy question, Charles. Not a simple answer. Everyone needs to sit down, get comfortable into their meditation pillows here, and then we can come back. No, I think not a simple answer to that. I think a lot of times, if I could just be totally honest, is at times we do get very focused in our city of Thunder Bay as an organization, if I can speak on behalf of EcoSuperior. And I think there's a lot of times where we're just sort of city focused. And then there's other times where we're not, we're like grander. So it's sort of like outwards and inwards and outwards and inwards. And it's a bit of an ebb and flow. And sometimes it's by the day, the moment, the deliverable item in a contract, or funding proposal, and so on. But who was it? Connie, you'd probably remember who said this. The more you look at, the closer you look at something, you realize it's connected to everything else in the universe. Who was it that said that? Connie,
Are you thinking about like situated knowledge?
Who was it, Connie?
I think you're thinking of Donna Haraway's situated knowledge.
Yeah, you're getting
William
like
Blake.
Academic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
William Blake.
Okay.
Sorry.
His is more, you can stare into a knothole until it scares the shit out of you. But it's the same idea.
Well, there is another way of saying it. Anyway, so yeah. I kind of prefer the more inspiring side of it, but that's just my own sort of personality and the way I see the world. But I appreciate that, Randall. So so even when we're deeply focused in place, like literally floating in Lake Superior on a warm day in a shallow bay in late August, we are deeply connected to everything else. And so it's sort of like a philosophical question as much as anything else, Charles, is what I'm getting at. Though we do at times try to think regionally, we try to, as we connect to Lake Superior, we're not connecting to the waterways flowing into it. And it's not always easy because I think the challenge is our own paradigm and ways of seeing the world. I don't know if I'm getting too intangible with my answer, but there are programs and actions that do and then don't. And now my land connections area that EcoSuperior has been launching, I feel like does a really good job of that. That's my opinion. And I invite anyone here to, whether you're in Thunder Bay, reach out when we can, when our COVID restrictions allow us to gather again and outdoors, even if it's 5, it's totally doable to stay safe and offer rewilding for wellness forest therapy outside. But if you're in another city like Duluth or Sault Ste. Marie, there are forest therapy guides, I'm sure, in your city that offer those walks. I recommend you just sign up and check them out if you're not familiar with them already, because I feel like those guided invitations really do a beautiful job of reminding humanity our deep sense of connection to the living waterscape and landscape, the living landscape. Dare I even say our own hearts, which are deeply wanting us to fall back in love with, and each other, with all of our diversity. And I know I'm an optimist and I'm even an idealist, I'll admit to both of those. I'm not saying that this is the panacea for all answers to all of our problems, though I do see it playing a massive role in helping to shift our hearts and minds that are so desperately needing to be shifted. Humanity is so capable of massive change, but we will not do it from a place of fear. We will do it out of a place of love and compassion and kindness. And it's together that the magic happens. It's when we join together. And so there's my deep thoughts on that. I'm sorry, I went on a bit of a philosophical reflection and I thought out loud. Charles, what was your more controversial one?
Well, I was just going to say, like, the purpose, I mean, the whole point of the Lake Superior Living Labs Network was to kind of, to have each of like the different hubs kind of come together and see what is actually happening. And these mini meetups kind of evolved out of, the COVID reality, and we actually haven't been able to travel. So, I just think it's great to, I think it's, hopefully in the not too distant future, we will be able to kind of be in each other's spaces and make those.
For me, what I see where you're getting at, like with the Living Labs or Living, I like to call it Living Legacy Network. That's my preferred name for it. But I'd like, for me, if I can speak sort of selfishly as EcoSuperior, how it would continue to benefit me is networking, yes, but also sharing best practices. If we have more chances where, I hear in Duluth, oh my God, we launched this and this was the ticket and it totally worked and here's how we did it. Those are the things that I think I'd like to, we know what the problems are. Let's get together and talk about what are the solutions and what are our best practices that work really, really well, whether it be in your group of colleagues or in a community-wide thing. And no doubt we're similar enough across borders that we could perhaps have whatever is growing in your community or in your workplace, even in your workplace, like it doesn't have to be in your community, spread all around the lake. We're all drinking the same water. It's all the same juice. We are all Lake Superior, aren't we? Like we're more Lake Superior than we are anything else, actually. We're just Lake Superior talking to each other if we're all drinking the tap water.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting way of putting it. Charles, I know you have a second question, but
I'm
I do
gonna
see
hold.
Connie and
I'm gonna hold it.
Okay, was it too controversial? I'm up
it's just opening a different can of worms. I'll put it in the chat box just because it is something I'd like to discuss at some point. But let's go on to others.
Great. So Sue, it was great to see you, and I'm just so delighted that you ended up joining EcoSuperior. It's great for them, it's great for you, and great for the community and Lake Superior, so it's awesome. I just wanted to ask you it's a curiosity question, actually. I was intrigued that you're doing a research project on 4-day work weeks, and so I was wondering how that started, because I think there's such potential there in terms of personal sustainability and well-being, but also in terms of disrupting capitalist, emphasis on, our obsession with work. So I just wondered if you could talk about how that started and,
oh my gosh,
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. I love that you're asking that, Connie, because there is grand intention behind it and you are hinting right to it. I joined the team and I saw how hard working this team was. And let me just be frank and honest with everybody here, if you're not already well aware of this. Non-for-profit employees are not compensated fairly. They're just not. So it's a sector that's greatly underpaid. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I could talk about that forever, but I will leave it at that. This is important. So coming into the role, seeing the pay scale on my second week on the job, I almost fell off my chair. And I was shocked, I was disappointed, and I was sickened by what I inherited and now I realize is actually across the province, if not the world. And may I also point out to everyone on this call, if you're not already familiar with this, it's also an equity issue. So 85 to 95% of all staff, at least the not-for-profits in Ontario, are women or men of color. And if you looked at my staff team, I showed you all the pictures, it's 100% that. So I just want to point out that immediately in 2 weeks on the job made my wheels turning. How can I compensate my team? Well, I want to pay them more fairly financially, but in order to do that, there's a lot of I got to get more money, and I also have to get my board on board. I have to. Okay, so how can I, before I could get all those ducks in a row, which take time, how can I also compensate them in other ways? And then I also was looking at exactly what you're getting at is I would say, the lack of healthy relations to being with our work, which is so unsustainable. I mean, it's just, I mean, I can't even put a word to it. I can't imagine there's a single person on this call right now that doesn't disagree with me. It is so unhealthy, this productive, obsessed society who is uncomfortable and even shame relaxation, slowing down. And so what I was doing was I was putting all these factors together in my head, and this. If EcoSuperior's mission is to build a healthy future for people in the planet, we ourselves need to be that. We ourselves need to be healthy. How can I, as a leader at EcoSuperior, support my staff team to be the health we want to see in the community? And we have to give it to ourselves first before we can give it to others. We have to deal with our own ecological grief before we help others with it. You see what I'm saying? And so I saw 4-day workplace as I looked at the global perspective of where things were shifting and proven to be highly successful. And ironically, there's tons of research out there that shows that 4-day work week actually leads not to less productivity, but actually more, and leads to healthier workers and healthier communities. So I made the argument to my board, and I'm so thrilled. I can't tell you how much I love it. I want the whole world who can shift to it to shift to it. I just see this as a really important movement. And so now I hope, fingers crossed, with the psychology department at LU has been sort of studying us. And given what we find over these 4 months, I hold hope that it is deemed successful, that it is deemed permanent and not just a trial. And then I'd love to share all the findings with everyone else in Thunder Bay so that other organizations could move in that direction too. And again, we're not any leader. We're following what other places have already done. So it's New Zealand, it's Norway, it's Denmark, it's even UK. It's so many other. There's even lots of companies in the States that have shifted this, and it's just awesome. I hope that what they didn't overtalk there, but there's my
Awesome. Thank you. That's very exciting.
Right. And it's not just about 4 days though. Let me just add this. It's not just about shifting to the 4-day. How is our everyday? Are we caring for each other? Are we leading with, I love Brene Brown's daring to lead. We are not armored leadership. We are daring leadership. Are we bringing compassion and vulnerability? So there's actually a lot of pieces that I'm bringing in along with it, making sure that it's not just about how many hours you work in a week or how many days. It's choice, giving workers choice. That is really important. If you're a mother with 2 kids and you're a single parent or caring for your mom and your children, whatever your story is, there needs to be choice in the work week of how you work. This is all pieces of health. I've just shifted it. In fact, another thing, and again, we don't have time to get here, but if anybody wants to follow up with me, maybe even you, Connie, to brainstorm, but I'm launching a whole new approach to performance reviews. It's no longer going to be performance reviews. It's going to be best self, best eco reviews. And I'm weaving in strength-based leadership and, ways that we support everyone to be the best person they can be. And then they in turn are supporting EcoSuperior to be the best organization we can be. And anyways, it's all related though. It's all related. We can't, if we keep this pace, there's no way we're going to face climate in a way that the planet needs. We all know I'm my worst. I'm going to admit for myself, when I'm rushing, that's when I'm not being mindful about what I'm eating, where my food is coming from, what packaging that the food item came in, how I use my car as a time machine a lot. It's, I can bike places, but when I use my car, it's because I'm using it as a time machine. It's all rushing. And I'll leave this thought with one quote that I find so powerful. And it is John O'Donoghue, who I'm a huge fan of. He sadly passed away not long ago, an Irish poet and writer and philosopher. But he said this about stress, and I'm sure everyone on this call can relate to stress. He defined it as such. Stress is, let me left for a moment. Stress is a perverse relationship with time. Can anyone argue? So in our solution to our healthy planet is actually handling our stress and having a very different relationship with time. as the Africans used to remind me in Kenya. They'd say, you Wazungus, you own the watches. We Africans, we own the time. We need to all feel an abundance of time again. Anyway, I'm ranting, I'm sorry. I'm kind of like in that kind of mood on a Monday, foggy morning. Thanks, Connie, for asking the question. I hope that was, yeah, you look like that was, yeah, I'd love to follow up with you. Any other questions or comments?
This is great. There is a lot in the chat. Gavin had to go, but, and Devin, I won't put you on the spot here, but just mentioning that Devin is working on her PhD looking at folk schools, and there might be some overlap on education and community education. So Devin and Sue, I don't know, maybe you already know each other, but
Well, we can follow up.
Yeah, there you go. And then Charles, yeah, did add his second question here about considering the crisis level situation of the current moment, is education enough? Blah, blah, blah. I know, not blah, blah, blah. That's an important question. Sorry, Charles. But I did want to say, I just noticed the time, and we do try to end these a few minutes before the hour is up, so folks have a chance to get a bio break before the next meeting. So I'm going to maybe copy and paste some of these questions so we have them saved, or we're recording, so we'll have the chat. So those will be saved if Sue or others want to follow up in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, let's definitely to follow up. And is education enough? And I'll do a real brief answer to that. No, it's not. No, it's absolutely not. Like we need all hands on deck from all perspectives. I just feel like EcoSuperior, everything we do is political, you know, like even just speaking out is disrupting silence, and, you know, all unhealthy behaviors are sustained by a culture of silence. So by us speaking out, we write letters to all levels of government? Absolutely. So it's not like we're not actively being active citizens. It's just our organization isn't focused as an advocacy political pressure group, which a lot of some environmental groups do, and we need those. We can't have just one or the other. We actually need both. And so, you know, EcoSuperior tends to focus in this direction. But then, so let's be honest, I get funding from municipal, provincial, and federal. So turning around and criticizing them outwardly and openly in the media wouldn't necessarily be a helpful way for me to continue a healthy relations. But do I work from the inside? Like last week with Environment Canada, with a pretty high up person talking about shifting that needs to happen, and they're directing their funding to maybe make that happen. That's the kind of ways that we do it. We don't do it outwardly, and like some of the other ones. We need them all. We need all of those hands on deck. We need academics. We need passionate mamas and papas. We need it all. There's my answer to that for now.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Sue.
Yeah, something I think a lot of us struggle with if we're teachers, or where do you put your energy when there's so many things? Right.
Yeah, but you know, as Paul Hawkins says, it's being part of that blessed unrest and seeing us all part of that movement, right? Social justice, environmental justice, and, you know, love. I see the word love. Love the idea about being healthy first. Okay, there we go. And it's about love. Oh my goodness. So feel free to reach out. My contact, I'm sure, is being shared around, or visit our website, ecosuperior.org. You can find my contact info there. Thanks for allowing EcoSuperior to kind of give you a little taste of what we're up to in a day-to-day.
Totally. Thank you so much for sharing. This was fantastic. We had lots of questions coming up and lots of people being inspired. So that was awesome. And thanks for being here, everybody. So nice to see your faces or your names. And we'll call it a day, so you have a few minutes before the next meeting.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Love.
Thanks.
Enjoy the full moon tonight.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.